Hello and welcome to the Open Era Podcast. My name is Devang and Simon. I'm joined as always by Mr. Simon Bushell. Slam season is back, baby, and it took us nearly 30 minutes to fix technical difficulties to record this podcast, Simon. It feels like we really are back. Everything is as what it was.
Yeah, we're in off-season form, aren't we? Still a bit rusty around the edges to try and figure out how this thing works.
I was about to smash a racket, literally and metaphorically, trying to get this going. But no, we're here. And so is the first slam of the season, which, truth be told, feels a bit insane, Simon. But here we are again. We do this every year. The tennis is underway in Australia, but here is Melbourne. Here is the slam. But instead of doing a draw section by section analysis, because I think we can all agree that's quite played out. Simon, in fact, do you want to have the floor to tell us why that's played out, or do you want to just keep going here?
Fully throwing me under the bus in the opening segment. 2024.
I mean, you told me, you're like, I hate these preview shows.
I think it just sucks to anytime you date yourself or like there is tennis being played and listening to people talk about things that are already going on. It's never the most ideal situation. But then again, that's also just like my personal vendetta against those kind of podcasts. Maybe other people like them. Maybe I shouldn't be so dismissive if people actually like listening to us do it. Maybe we should have sought out the opinions of our audience before we chose this decision.
It's a fair question, and people do like them, but and I know there are other places to go find that sort of draw analysis content. But instead of doing that, I think we wanted to do something a bit different. And don't worry, we're going to do our predictions and our picks and everything in parting shots, so don't worry about that. But we wanted to start with picking 3 players outside the top 20 that we're excited to watch and that have a way, I think, of impacting this tournament in significant ways, even though they're outside the top 20. Because I think for so much of this conversation, especially the big tournament, it's all about the top players. And when you're on the men's side, oftentimes we were talking about very few players. And on the women's side, I think we're now talking about perhaps a big 4. But WTA is so damn deep. But for this exercise, they got to be outside the top 20, Simon. We both picked 3 players. Do you want to go first?
Yes, I will go first, and I will start with Emma Navarro. How about that one to go really like off menu for my opening choice of 2024? I'm still not used to saying 2024, by the way. I keep saying 2023 and get tripped up by it. Anyway, Emma Navarro, I think if you've not heard of her, she's had a pretty big ascent through the rankings to the back half of 2023. Her 2023 season was actually really, really good, despite some middling results in Grand Slam, like just getting to the second and first round, but qualifying nonetheless. She's inside of the world's top 30, or she will be the conclusion of this tournament. She's currently ranked 31 in the world. She made 8 finals, I believe, last year. Another one of those in a long line of daughter of billionaire businessman in U.S. tennis. So we always
Ben Navarro. Can you guess what Ben Navarro does?
No idea. Something in finance, surely. Some banking section. Okay,
you got it.
Anyway, she has a good section of the draw. It's a nice one to be in. She starts with Ji Wang in the first round. She's in Vondrousova's section and Ostapenko's section. It wouldn't shock me if she makes a sneaky run here, at least to the 4th round, going under the radar. She's a very good player, Dev, and one I think will actually be a bit of a mainstay inside of the top 20, maybe by the end of the year, if she manages to emulate the results that she had last year. I got my eye on her. I think she's a good player.
Sneakily, also, I think a pick for deepest American run maybe as well, which is saying something when Coco Gauff and Jess Pegula are there, obviously. But yeah, I think she was the top rated recruit when she was going to school, which I think we hear that a lot in different sports in North America, but in tennis, it's a bit of a different animal, right? Because I think there's the option, of course, to go pro early and circumvent college entirely, but we're seeing way more players choose the college route. I think it's interesting she went to college, Bush, during the pandemic, which was obviously not a normal college experience. So I'm curious about that whole thing. But yeah, I think the NCAA pedigree speaks well to where she's at in her career, and the fact that she's 22 and we haven't really heard that much about her. It's it's going to make sense very soon, I think, why she's making deep runs into tournaments like this. Excellent pick, Simon. And because you picked an American, I'm going to wave the flag against you and end your Yankee Doodle Dandy hijinks and pick Leila Annie Fernandez, who is seeded. Thank God she's seeded again at a slam. I think we had been talking, especially most of last year, Simon, about Leila not being seeded and having to run through a gauntlet at these tournaments because of that. And it's not like she's high. She's 32 and she's going to face a qualifier in the first round. But there's a potential date with Coco Gauff in the third round, Simon. And I think if both players get there, that will be box office for sure. And in one way or another, I think that match will have a part to play in who will ends up lifting the trophy at the very end.
The women's draw is very, very difficult to predict. I think I sent you a message before we were recording and saying I have no real concept or idea. I mean, I've got to make a prediction on this podcast of who I think will win, but overall, every single section has some very, very difficult opponents. And I actually think the same as Coco Gauff as well. So I like the pick, Dev. I don't buy the fact that she's going to do anything here, though.
It's true. But also, you know, that sweet Billie Jean King momentum that is definitely real. Hoping some of that can be parlayed, because I think she was just playing generally better, right? And I feel like in the Leila slump, I don't know if you could really say she was ever playing horribly bad, you know, but I do think that those levels that we had seen her reached a couple years ago, whether or not she could be back there was a question mark. And I think in that BJ King Cup and doing it for Canada the way she did, that was excellent to see. So let's see if that momentum can continue. I'm going to go against Simon. How about that? And I'm going to go on the ATP. I'm picking Jack Draper. It's mostly a shout out to Pog on the Discord who mentioned Jack, who I nearly had forgotten, Simon. Not because I wanted to get his chiseled good looks out of my head and wanted to stop cursing him for having it all, but I think he's in an interesting spot. He was obviously on the ascension in 2022. 2023 was going to be a really big year. He was rising up the rankings. Injuries played a huge detriment to what he wanted to achieve. I think he missed Wimbledon entirely. He missed the grass court season, Simon, but he's looked good in Australia. I think he handled Tommy Paul, which not easy to do on a hard court. I think he could play Tommy Paul really early in this tournament as well, which could be box office second round potentially. So Jack Draper is my second pick.
Another one of those that you actually think his age is quite surprising to me, that he is 22.
Yeah.
Sort of in some ways feels like he's been around longer, and in some other weird way seems like he hasn't been around at all. So maybe the 22 is actually more accurate than we want to let on here. It's going to be a big season for him, isn't he? Outside of the top 50, obviously injuries would have played a part in that as well, but he has the pedigree, I think, to do well, especially on this surface as well. The fact that he made the fourth round of the US Open, and conditions-wise, it's not quite the same in Australia, and he'll have to deal with the heat and have to deal with all the things that come with it, of being a very grueling Grand Slam, and hopefully his body can stand up to him. He's got a lot of game, Dev. He does have a lot of game, and that section of the draw is winnable, right? It's winnable, bar, of course, the one lurking there in Carlos Alcaraz.
I think it is, though. How about that? Here's a bold claim in the middle of this. Also a bold claim. I just want to throw this in there quickly. Is Casper Ruud good? Question mark, Simon. Is it happening?
Well, I'm pretty open about my opinions on.
Can't do this. We can't do this. Okay, all right. How about your second pick, Simon?
Caroline Wozniacki, another one who I think interesting to note, given her return back to the tour. Obviously, former champion here. Returning from retirement. We'll see what this tournament has in store for us. She did well at the US Open in her return. I think she got to the fourth round there as well. I'm not sure what this season holds for her in general, but if you want to talk about a bit of a flyer on someone who is coming back, knows the surface, knows the arena, is loved by the fans down there as well, and really her section of the draw again, she opens with a seed in Magna Linette, which is obviously always challenging. But it's fairly open. It's reasonably open for her to continue to make inroads at Grand Slam level. And I think the other thing that I wanted to circle on this one is that she came back for these kind of moments, right? She made the comeback to play at Grand Slam level, and especially at this kind of Grand Slam. Wouldn't surprise me as a wild card for seeing her in the latter stages and maybe in week 2.
Great shout. Yeah, I think the performance at the U.S. Open, it was exactly what you wanted to see for a comeback like this, where it wasn't going to be like, oh God, this is painful, or the level is clearly not there, and like, what are you doing? Go home to your millions and your beautiful family. This is like, oh wow, she can still definitely ball. She beat Petra. She beat Jen Brady, who's just coming back as well. Then she lost to Goff in 3 sets. So that's exactly right. And yeah, I think this is reason number 6,000 why the WTA is ridiculous and why their draws are a nightmare to navigate. But yeah, you have a Caroline Wozniacki lurking in a section with Maria Sakkari, who I don't think anyone is scared of her, unfortunately, and Beatrice Haddad Maia, who I think on her day can beat anyone, but the consistency, I don't know if that's there for enough matches in a row. So I like that shout a lot.
I mean, people should be scared of Beatrice Haddad Maia, but probably not at the Australian Open.
No.
I think that's one. So that section of the draw is kind to her.
No. Okay. I will stick in the WTA for my last pick, and I'm cheating. I picked Naomi Osaka. She's outside the top 20. So it's legal, Simon. Sue me.
How far outside of the top 20 is she? What is her ranking at the moment? Does she have a ranking? Is she playing on a protected ranking, or is she on a wild card?
She is. I believe she is on a PR, which is 46. But currently, I think she's 830 something. Like, she's way up there. Yeah.
Are we counting that outside of the top 20? Seems reasonable.
Woo! It's not even a technicality. It's damn real. I'm saying this on a podcast, so don't laugh at me, but not much to be said about this pick, Simon. We all want to see what Naomi Osaka is going to do at this tournament. By the time you listen to this, depends when she's going to play. But Caroline Garcia is the most hilarious first round match she could have gotten, I think, because it's to me, Simon, this is perfect in a lot of ways. Like, either it's quick and painless, or we get a classic and Naomi's in for the long haul. But I think there are some signs from some of the warm up tennis we've seen that she can be something here. Like, it's not going to be I'm back, I'm going to ease myself into it, I'm here for a good time. I think there is a chance we can see a glimpse of what we have, especially in Australia, where she's won a couple times.
This is a nightmare section, isn't it?
Crazy, yeah.
I mean, if you're a hardcore nut and hardcore Naomi Osaka nut and really fully go in and support her, this is just about the worst draw you could have had in terms of where she could have landed on this thing. It's so deep. This draw is ridiculous, Dev. Every single section is hard. There's not an easy one within them, I would say. I don't really... Again, you will be listening to my voice after this has started.
This idiot
saying this. I don't think she gets out of round 1. I just don't think so.
Probably not, but I think I'm just glad it's Garcia. I'm glad it's an artist on the other side of it. It's not some pusher. It's not some phony. We're gonna get a good match, I think, and it'll be cool. Hopefully it's on at night and we get a classic Laver match, because I think that would be awesome for many reasons. So I'm picking Osaka, and yeah, she's in Goff. That's his Goff's section 6. Nightmares all around. Who's your last pick, Simon?
It's Arthur Fils. I actually found the men really difficult to pick in terms of someone outside of the top 20. Because I was looking at some of the old guard. I looked at Roberto Bautista Agut and just I couldn't do it.
Sadly, did you look at him disgustedly as he aged out of relevancy? Is that how you looked at him?
I did. Also, I had Murray. I had Monfils written down.
Milos got the Demon, which is devastating. Yeah,
I had Borna Coric written down as well. I had Daniel Altmaier. I had a ton of ones that...
Altmaier. Yes.
I also had Hugo Humbert because I kind of like him on this court and his section. And then I just went for the easiest one. I went with the youngster storyline because I kind of like his section. I think Fils has an actual opportunity here to make a bit of a name for himself. And he's also in pretty good form. Obviously, he lost in that Next Gen final, but he's very talented. He's made for this kind of surface. I think the conditions will suit him well. I think physically he's certainly up to what's going to be required in Australia. I think he has the measure of Yuri Vesely, although you could easily see him getting beaten in straight sets, couldn't you, in the round one as well?
Sure, right?
Against a very good player. Like, all joking aside, Yuri Vasily is a very, very talented and very good player, and also playing on a protected ranking here. I don't know, man. Expecting a big year out of Arthur Fils, and maybe this is the start of a good journey for him in 2024.
Don't get me wrong, I love the old French guys battling and just still playing, and Manarino grinding and getting career high rankings, and Gale still going, and Benoit Paire playing for inexplicable reasons. But yeah, let's get some youngsters in there consistently deep for France. It's time. Let's see it from Fils. That section is hilarious, though. Chapeau's back, baby, on a PR.
Another one that I had circled and was like, oh, I can't do it to myself.
Chapeau, her catch, potentially some hilarity in the second round, available on Hubie, streaming live.
Do you want to know, and brutal honesty here, Dev? Brutal honesty, cards on the table for it. I was like, oh, I need one more to pick. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be hipster, and I'm going to pick someone outside the top 20, and I'm going to pick Grigor Dimitrov. And I was like, holy shit, he's a 13th seed here.
He might win this tournament. Yeah, I saw some people earnestly picking him to make a deep run, and it was true. And I was like, yeah, I could see it. 2024 is wild. Felix and Dominic team as well. That could be an all-time sad match. Sort of the loser leaves devastated match. Could be.
It's a wrestling style match, isn't it? Loser leaves tennis.
Loser leaves sad match. Okay. We're recording this. Qualifiers are still going on. Could see a couple more interesting names. Gabriel Diallo is playing David Goffin in the last round of qualifiers, which should be interesting. I don't know did you see that his match with PHH Bush Diallo?
I did not see it. No, I'm not that much of a sicko, unfortunately, Deb.
Yeah, it's true, and good for you. But to set the scene, they're in the third set. This is again like huge stakes to get into the final round of qualifying. And the umpire thinks that the tiebreak ends at 7. She doesn't realize it was a super breaker. So Diallo was the point. She calls game, set, and match. Diallo goes nuts. Everyone's like, oh no. And then she apologizes. They play out the match. Diallo still wins, but Humbert clearly devastated and loses it on the umpire. I hadn't seen that before. The umpire not knowing the rules. I've occasionally forgotten about the super breaker. I'm right. I can't pretend I haven't, but that was something else.
I wonder how that works. Do you supersede the umpire with tournament rules at that point? Like the tournament
Someone
umpire?
must have said something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw it on like a highlight show, so I was very curious to see like how that was flagged or like who did what. But shouts to Gabriel Diallo.
It'd be very funny to see that Gabriel Diallo's camp trying to sue the Australian Open. No, look,
good for him though.
She called it.
PHH completed the meltdown afterwards. He could have responded, but he did not. So, all right. Anything else, Simon, from the draw before we get into party shots? Any randos?
I mean, there's a billion randos.
There's a lot of randos.
It was actually surprisingly difficult to do 3 from both sides of the draw. But one thing I did want to talk about very, very briefly was just on the men's and the women's side of last Australian standing, because I think everyone is going to look at Alex de Minaur, 10th seed here, and his section of the draw being relatively reasonable, Milos aside. And then I was looking at it and thinking, do I fancy myself a bit of Jordan Thompson here? Do I fancy
Tomo, Jordo, Tomo, Jordo?
Can I see a night match between Jordan Thompson and Stefanos Tsitsipas and him coming out in 5 sets and making a quarterfinal here? I think I can.
You better put another shrimp on the barbie for Taza on that match, because you better believe it'll be a night match. Yeah, obviously a huge Greek contingent in Melbourne as well. Steph, just do something nice at a big tournament, eh? How about that? Play good. Play well at the very end.
Didn't he make the final here last year?
Yeah, I know. At the very end, I meant. At the very end. Okay. We'll leave it there before I embarrass myself any further. When we come back, it's parting shots. We'll make some predictions. Plus, Milmania ends. Daria Kasatkina, the GOAT. Naomi Osaka stuff. Alexander Zverev stuff. Plenty more coming up next. Welcome back to the Open Air Podcast. Simon, it's slam time. The Australian Open really did not know when the draw was, I'll be honest here. And when it just started happening, it's one of those sweet surprises that only the Australian Open could bring because the times are completely flipped on their head. But now that they're out, and now that we've kind of run through the draws and made our kind of outsider picks of players to watch, let's get down to brass tacks. Who do you got, sir? I think we haven't mentioned this yet, but Iga Swiatek has a really, really tough draw. We mentioned everyone's got a tough draw on the WTA, but this potentially could be an all-timer. She's against the 34th seed and the 2020 champ here, Sofia Kenin in round 1, possibly Danielle Collins in round 2, Svitolina in the 4th round, Ostapenko in the quarterfinals, and Rybakina semis. Rybakina's got a tough road herself. Sabalenka does not, Simon. Does that factor into your pick here?
It does, yeah. I'm not picking Anya Sabalenka, though. I'm probably one of the only 7 people who is recording a podcast about tennis to not pick her. I think if you are going to pick, I think she is probably the favorite in this tournament, just given her draw and just given, obviously, defending champion, given the season that she had, all those things, how well she's played at this tournament historically. I think if you're going to pick a player, that would be the smart money. I'm picking Elena Rybakina to win this tournament. Do I need to defend myself, or shall I just leave it at that?
No, I'm kind of mad because I was going to do it myself, but I felt like a bit of a copier because I had a feeling you were leading that way. I mean, this will be, if she is to do it, God, I hope she gets her flowers, rightfully so, because it will not be a stroll. But she's playing excellently. She's playing a lot, though, Bush, before this tournament. That was the only thing I was like, but I guess you have to, the first tournament, to get back in the swing of things.
That's one of the most interesting elements of this, which is there's a lot of players who haven't played any actual formal matches on both the men's and the women's side coming in. They didn't play either at Adelaide or in Brisbane and are just coming in, undercooked, maybe not undercooked, but actually are taking time to rest and relax going into the first slam of the season. Is there such a thing as match play tennis, getting it under your belt and feeling comfortable going into the first slam of the year, or would you rather have the rest and recuperation? I have not run the data on this. I would be fascinated to know the answer if historically it's made much of a difference. I clearly don't think it does. Maybe I do. I don't know. I'm going to argue against myself here. Either way, Rybakina's winning this tournament. Okay,
it's a good pick. I don't know. I really want to see the top 4 make the semis here. I really do. I'm going to pick Sabalenka, but I think it'll be Sabalenka Swiatek in the final. And I think Iga will pass a lot of tests and we'll get something really fun in the final. That's my hope, at least. But I'll pick Sabalenka. I'll go with the masses here, Simon. I like the draw. I like how there's a potential for an Ons match in the quarterfinals just to ramp up the intensity as we get deeper into the tournament. That'll be something if Ons can make it there, if Sabalenka can make it there, because I feel like Anna Bogdan's going to blow up this entire segment by winning in the second round. But yeah, I'll pick Sabalenka on the women's side. That's pretty chalky. Nothing crazy. On the men's side, very curious where you go here, Simon. Novak has a draw that to me seems doable for him, but I do wonder if there was going to be some slip. I think he will eventually start slipping due to age and all the other factors, but the wrist stuff is interesting. He loses to Demon a couple of weeks ago. Are you going to pick against him is what I'm asking you.
Yeah, I'm going to pick against him. I think...
Whoa.
Obviously not on talent and not on historical precedents, but I do wonder how much of the injury stuff is real. And I obviously am falling into a trap here of the man crying wolf a billion times and me falling for it. I think he probably will win this tournament. And it's another one of those where I think it's the correct pick to pick him. I am picking Danny Medvedev to win this tournament. And
hell yeah. All right.
I feel good about that. I feel really good about it. I think he's in good headspace. I think he's probably looked at all of the love that Yannick Sinner was getting and all the love that Carlos Alcaraz was getting and been like, I can kick the shit out of both of those kids and I'm going to do it. And if I play Novak Djokovic in a final, I back myself to beat him as well. I've done it before and I'll do it again. So if there's any slip up in Novak Djokovic and there's any dip in level, I would back Danny Medvedev to take that spot and take the world number one ranking at the same time.
I love it. Okay, so I'll pick against Novak too. Once again, like if he wins this tournament, ho hum, yeah, he's a sicko. He's a goat sicko. But I have Sinner beating him in the semis, and I think it'll be like a big one. And then we'll get Sinner Med in the final. Bush can go either way. I'm going to pick Medvedev too, though. So how about that? Daniel Medvedev both being picked. Surely that will not curse him at all, as the various players in his section lick their lips after realizing that they've been granted the open era curse on Daniil Medvedev. That's, you hear that, Emil Rusevori? Handle your business in the second round. Okay. So there are our picks. Medvedev. We both picked Medvedev, and then Sabalenka and Rybakina. See how that plays out, Simon. Okay, into parting shots, rapid fire. Some heavy stories off the top. I don't know if you saw Naomi Osaka's sister Mari's post, Simon, on social media that was subsequently deleted, that outlined abuse at the hands suffered at the hands of their father, and that was their mother and both Naomi and Mari. But the post was deleted. I saw a few places pick it up, Simon, but obviously some harrowing stuff, and also I think just to consider everything, like Naomi's coming back. She's a mother now. The book's out. Ben Rothenberg's book's out. It has a lot of really interesting stuff from what I've seen. Like, it feels like a lot is going on around Team Osaka currently.
The most interesting part to me, I should say off the top, actually, the accusations and all the things that are alleged in this post, it's pretty harrowing. It's not great to see at all. And it's a long line of parental figures in our sport not being nice, not being good people, not being particularly good, parental figures in any regard, and in some ways just straight up being abusive. I was curious, why do you think this post was deleted? Like, what was your read on why it went?
I mean, we see this a lot. Like, I think people post and then perhaps they talk to some family members and they're someone asked them to take it down for whatever reason. But I think this is something that we see quite often, Simon, where it's someone posting something and then for reasons that we're not sure about, taking it down. But I mean, the quote, "I've already known since birth I'm the daughter to the devil," is like, holy crap. Like, that's yeah, right. So that's hopefully she's okay as well, right? So, like, I know there's a lot that we don't know about, but I think I wanted to put this in here is because, like, from where Naomi Osaka was to challenging the press in interviews, and not just challenging them, but also outlining her needs as a person and trying to meet them somewhere in the middle to where we are now. So much has happened, and I feel like she's not to use a cliche here and kind of try and dress it with she's wise beyond her years, but holy cow, how much she's experienced, Simon, to be where she is now. Like, she's lived a few lifetimes already.
Still only 26 years of age. I mean, fucking hell, Dev. Yeah. Crazy the things, the roller coaster that she's been on.
Yeah. All right. Alexander Zverev elected to the Players' Council and featured in the latest version or section, I don't know what the hell this is, latest chapter of Breakpoint on Netflix. Zverev's episode does not cover any of the allegations of domestic violence from either Olia Sharapova or the mother of his child, which is a choice. They also go on to paint Daniil Medvedev as his rival and show him doing Daniil Medvedev stuff on the tennis court. Keywords there, on the tennis court, in terms of his antics. But yeah, some really interesting quote unquote choices by Netflix here, Simon. Baffling and like really, really upsetting. And I shouts to Daria Kasatkina once again, the GOAT, for calling out Netflix with a tweet about how ridiculous this was. I don't know, man. Like, I've heard reviews of how bad or how poorly received the second season of Breakpoint is, but I don't even think I'm going to watch it after seeing this.
The failing Breakpoint, to quote
Yeah.
the next president of the United States.
Oh, God. Oh, God, yeah.
Everything about this is shit.
Isn't it something? Isn't it something, though? And then he's on the Players' Council, too. It's like, holy shit. Stop trying to make him happen. No one wants this. Nobody wants this. Germany doesn't want this. Does Germany want this?
Maybe they do. We need to ask some Germans, don't we, to figure out the answer to that. So,
we got Torquette in the Discord.
That's true, yeah.
There cannot be, God damn it.
So
really?
There's two parts to this that I wanted to just quickly touch on. On the Breakpoint side of it, like, just fucking do better. Like this.
Yeah. Read a book. Open a link, man. Open a damn link.
Perhaps more interesting, though, is the Players' Council side of it. And one wonders how someone like that gets elevated into a position where his fellow players are voting him or electing him onto the Players' Council. And perhaps just the fact alone gives a sense of where that body is, perhaps how conservative the player field is in general, or in general, more accurately, what they thought about these allegations.
They don't give a fuck.
Or how
they don't give a,
yeah, how much they've responded to these kind of allegations, which are obviously very credible. There's no denying that at this point. Still, if you're not familiar with it, please go back and read the words of the two young women that are involved in this, because that's the most important thing here to remember. But also on this flip side of it, do better as well as a player body. Actually give a shit about this stuff because it's kind of important.
Well said. Yeah. God. Yeah. Whew. Okay. Tennis balls, Simon. I mentioned Novak wrist being an issue, and we've heard this for a few weeks now, a few months. The tennis balls being different from all these tournaments and the weights being different, and that really messing with the players as they're practicing for hours and hours and hours, and the consistency of the balls is just really not a thing. And now announced this week, the WTA and the ATP have collaborated on new scheduling rules. And they're going to do a strategic review on tennis balls with the aim of increasing the quality and the consistency during the tournament swings from 2025 onwards. The initiatives are a direct result of player input and aim to boost the tournament experience to both players and fans. So the first part I mentioned, scheduling, so they don't have these 4 a.m. matches, but it sounds like they're going to do something about the tennis balls being different sizes, which to me, and I don't always agree with them, but Vasek Pospisil commented that they're only doing something because people are like getting injured and careers are ending. That's literally what happened. Like Dominic Thiem's wrist had to explode in front of our eyes, I guess. Like, I don't know, but it does feel like they're playing from behind here and they have to catch up. Like 2025, great, but we've got a season coming up, and if your greatest of all time men's player has his wrist falling apart too, that's not a great look.
I mean, there's more of us now, Dev. We're a growing movement of people, of ball truthers.
It's true. It's true.
So, I mean, shout out to Russell Fuller. Had him on the podcast before. His work's excellent on BBC Sport. I felt like such a fucking child reading through this article. The amount of double entendre and the amount of innuendo that I found myself sniggering at. I am a 5-year-old when it comes to this stuff. A headline of tennis players claim heavy and slow balls cause more injuries. And then also, is Nick Kyrgios being a troll on this? Is this quote? Yeah. Is this quote him trolling? Changes of balls every week finally got to Novak's wrist. Is he making a joke there, or is that like actually serious?
No. He's trying to be a real pundit. This is the other thing that I was not going to mention, but Nick Kyrgios is now trying to blur the lines of real punditry and being a shit poster. Like he's going at our friend Scott on Twitter, the friend of the show from Murray Musings. Like some of it is kind of funny, but also they're really trying to make him happen too. And you know what? Craig Tiley, relax, fam. You don't need to do this. Whatever you're doing, try less. Do less, sir.
What do you think is the most like blurring of the lines that you can get away with using the term balls in a headline that is like close to a shit post but is also professional enough to get printed by an outlet?
Didn't the UK have a damn cabinet guy and balls?
Yeah.
Didn't they have a frickin' what?
This is his moment.
Once again, the UK exporting their madness to the world. Insanity. Okay. John Millman, sir, is hanging him up, fell in qualies for the Australian Open. Millmania gave us so many great moments, Simon. He was a foil to Roger, nearly caused him to sweat to death in New York City, which I'll never forget. But I like John Millman, the player. I liked how he gave it his all. And as he so rightly mentioned to me, he's got a podcast now. So let's try and get John Millman on. Let's make that our mission before we close up Open Air, Simon. I feel like it's doable.
I think some of his quotes when he was interviewed after falling in qualifying was a pretty good microcosm of him as a player, where he basically said he left it all out on the court. And I don't think you can look at a more perfect example on the men's side to think, yeah, that seems pretty damn accurate to me. Really fair play. Yeah, fair enough.
I remember and they were showing his dad in that US Open match and talking about like just the work ethic and like the will to compete, and it sounded prototypically Australian. I think that's the nicest thing I can say about a country of people, but it just sounded like something like Tasa would do as well, our friend Jordan Thompson. But yeah, shouts to John Millman. Come on Open Air, sir.
We'll never forgive you for almost killing Roger Federer.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll confront you about that. I also read a good, I want to shout this out, Simon. In The Athletic on Naomi Osaka, the comeback interview, A Tale of Pregnancy, Fear, and a Ballerina by Matthew Futterman. Good read. Came out on the 11th, but I would give that a read as well. If you want to get primed on Naomi coming back and coming back with, nothing to lose and a hell of a lot of games. So that should be fun. Okay, Simon, parting shots. What do you got this week?
Yeah, this section, formerly going forward, will formally be known as the Bill Belichick Memorial section. He's
he's gone.
He's finally gone.
Darth Hoodie. Wow.
No,
what a run. Yeah.
I'm joking. I don't actually really care. It's all change in the NFL though, like in collegiate sport as well.
There. You had me in the first half there. Damn.
Indeed so, yes, to quote the meme. I'm actually going to go off sports for a second. I have begun watching this TV show, originally a Japanese show called Midnight Diner. And it's about a diner which is open between the hours of midnight and 7 a.m. And it's kind of like this slice of life thing where the only thing that's on the menu is anything you ask for. So you can come in and order literally anything. And the resulting sort of TV show is about all of examining why a person would like a particular kind of food, or like what connection it has to their history and maybe their childhood, and how that sort of manifests itself in adulthood as well. It's really sweet. It's really lovely. Encourage people to check it out. There's a Korean version of it as well, which is fantastic. And I believe most of it's on Netflix.
I like how we're both about to promote Netflix shows after taking down the failing Breakpoint. But mine is also going to be a Netflix show. It's called Singles Inferno. It's a Korean dating show. Been watching it. I'm fascinated about it for a few reasons, Simon, but it's just so different than some of the North American dating shows for a few reasons. But I am also just loving the banter and loving what these singles are getting up to in this Inferno. So yeah, if you want some mindless viewing to watch and enjoy, Singles Inferno on Netflix.
Look at us both going to Asia for our media of choice.
Incredible. Okay, Simon, anything else on this Aussie Open edition of the show?
I can't believe it's happening again, Dev. The damn sport never stops.
Sounds exasperated. Yeah, it's a desperate.
They're doing this again?
Again. We got it. We got the name of the episode. Yeah, here we go again. Okay, we'll leave it there. Honestly, though, there's few things I like more than not being able to sleep and watching tennis. But that's probably a conversation for the next episode of Open Era. Until then, for producer Dylan on the ones and twos, and for Simon, thank you so much for listening to Open Era. We'll talk to you next week.